Welcome to How to Decorate from Ballard Designs, a weekly podcast all about the trials and triumphs of decorating and redecorating your home. I'm Caroline. I'm on the marketing team.
And I'm Taryn, and I'm a product designer.
I'm Liz. I head up the creative team.
We're your hosts. Join the expert team at Ballard Designs for tips, tricks, and tales from interior designers, stylists, and other talents in the design world.
Plus, we'll answer your decorating dilemmas at the end of each episode.
We love answering your questions, so don't forget to email us at podcast@ballarddesigns.net.
Now, on with the show.
All right. Today, we are thrilled to welcome husband and wife design duo, Heather and Matt French. Heather, the studio's creative director, brings an artist instinct for color, scale, and storytelling. And Matt is director of construction and product development, bridging creative vision and technical execution, ensuring every project is not only beautiful, but built to last. Together, their Santa Fe-based design firm, French and French Interiors, creates luxurious yet livable rooms for their clients across the U.S. Heather and Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
I absolutely loved getting to dive into your portfolio because we have really not had many designners on the show who do projects in the Southwest. Like a few here and there, of course, but it was just really like it transports you into this new world where the colors and the patterns and the landscape, it just all works together so beautifully. So I just really had it was so fun to get to check out some of your client projects.
Thank you so much. It's a really great and beautiful place to work.
Yeah. Why don't we start there? Why don't you tell us both? I know you're both originally from the South, so maybe give us a little, primer on how you made it out to Santa Fe and how you started your design business about 15 years ago.
How do we make it to Santa Fe? Well, we had fixed up a little house in Southwest Florida where Heather's from. I'm from South Alabama, Fairhope. And we knew we wanted to go back out west. And we wanted to find somewhere that both of our careers at the time would work. Heather was in natural medicine and I was in natural building and renewable energy. And, Santa Fe was really one of maybe 3 places in the country where both of our careers made sense. And also that somewhere that we could find a piece of property and build our own house on. And
Yeah. And then long story short, we got out here and decided we wanted to pivot careers. And it was the best decision we could have made. And and went on from there. It was, yeah.
So was it that first house project in Florida that sort of ignited your love for design and then, kind of blossomed there if you were in different careers at that point?
Yeah, I think for me, I was really always naturally interested in it. And now I say to our daughter, pay attention to what you pay attention to. Because from a really young kid, I think Matt too, my room was really important to me. Space was really important to me. My mom let me design my room as a child. I did this black and white Disney themed room for myself. It's hilarious. Now looking back at it, it's cute. And and then I went to Auburn University, which is where Matt and I met for college. And I remember looking at the interior design building across from my dorm and thinking oh, that's so interesting. But I didn't even understand what the career was or that it was even an option. I think we kind of come from a different time where kids now kind of understand that there's this world out there beyond doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever. I guess I just didn't really grasp it, And so, it was a natural interest. And then after we got married, we remodeled that house in Florida. And Matt always likes to say that our shelter magazine budget was larger than our mortgage.
Yeah, we couldn't afford furniture, but we were stacking things up on our magazines.
Our side tables were the magazines.
Amazing. So, okay, in that first house, how did your dynamic, in maybe what you were bringing to the design project, was that maybe similar to what it is now, or have you sort of evolved your different skill sets?
I think we've evolved pretty significantly.
Yeah, and so growing up in Fairhope, my mom had a store where she would travel and import kind of home goods and collectibles, hot sauces. It was really sort of a really interesting import, like emporium. I don't know. And we had a lot of interior designers that would come and buy from her, and she would go when she would travel for the shop, would buy for them. And so, and my grandmother was a painter, and in the South, I feel like it's almost a more like materially aesthetic culture, like just the way, we decorate our homes and people dress. And I feel like beauty is perhaps maybe because it's a more traditional culture is important. So I feel like that sort of was like my baseline of really sort of appreciating beauty and things. So yeah, when we were designing that house, I feel like we didn't really know all the layers you would build in. So like paint color was really important to us. I remember, I don't know, a patchwork of samples trying to figure out paint color. And, we had a lot of pushback from people about everything we did, like, why would you want to tear out the drop ceiling in your kitchen? And like that fluorescent box lighting is so great for a workspace. And wow, it just seems like everything we were doing, we had pushback of like, just aesthetic and all of our decisions we were making. And also that like, why would you want to sell now? Because the home prices are going to only go up so much. And, we stuck to our guns. We sold our house ourselves 2 weeks before the market failed in Florida, which was like 2006.
Yeah.
So like literally
that 2008 bubble burst way before in Florida.
Yeah, we made like, right. And we made like 125% or so profit on the investment of the house.
Oh my
and
gosh,
it was
you were those people that everyone's like, I wish I was those people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like a bubble on top
just
of
by
a bubble.
chance.
Yeah. It was like, we say it was like a double bubble because we had a hurricane. It was 2005, and we had a hurricane come through. Charlie came through Punta Gorda and the area we were, and like 100 tornadoes came out of it and just like ripped apart neighborhoods and then left some untouched. And we were lucky enough to be one of the untouched ones. So like it was like an extra boost of value. But like literally 2 weeks after we sold the place and packed up like the Clampetts and were pulling out west, our house was worth what we paid for it, And so it was just like a validation all the way to the end that to follow our instincts and that we were onto something,
Yeah.
What an incredible story. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. No wonder you kept at it. You clearly had a knack for it. Well, I wanted to talk about Santa Fe, and Liz, please jump in here at any point. Because like I mentioned before, it's such a, specific landscape and locale. And I think so many people probably have a vision of what the American Southwest looks like, and, the colors that are there and the motifs and the architecture. And so I'm curious how that has all influenced your design, and how you've worked with it, how you've maybe like worked against it to try to meld the different things that you like into your spaces.
Yeah, I think it took me a little while to embrace the like traditional aesthetic of Santa Fe. And so I went and worked with a firm before we opened up our own for a few years, and they had a little bit of like an East Coast aesthetic. And when I left that firm, I wanted to really make sure that what we were doing was very different and more colorful. And, I wanted to stand apart from what was happening here in Santa Fe. And so it took me a little while to kind of wrap my head around it. And then we did a show house that it was an incredible house, the Applegate Estate, which we actually, this was in 2015, I want to say. And we just redid that house for a new client that purchased it. And it was just an Architectural Digest like 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Incredible.
it's great. It was fun to get to go back to it because so we did one room for a show house there, and it just has this very storied, the house has this very storied presence about it where Frank Applegate, who's like the father of folk art here in Santa Fe, and it hung out with these really amazing artists, including Georgia O'Keeffe, and Ansel Adams photographed the house. And those photographs are currently in the Smithsonian. And, it just has this amazing presence about it. And so when you're in it, you really want to honor that. And so Matt and I really pushed to kind of figure out how do we embrace this, like triple adobe wall, like very, like the walls are like pottery. It's very beautiful. How do we embrace this aesthetic, but also kind of keep it our own? And that was the first time that we really, really pushed hard with multiple colors. Like before we were colorful, but we weren't using a lot of color, and we were still figuring out how to layer it and layer pattern. And so that room and that 2015 show house for us was like pinks and greens and lots of woods and different, case goods that had different patterning on it. And it was just very interesting. And so I think it, and we use these Navajos from the 1930s that had that type of patterning on it. And it really kind of pushed us to bring in that Santa Fe aesthetic into this like very layered kind of back east kind of Southern meets English look that we have.
I don't know, like to speak widely though on, the West, like say the West versus the Southwest and just the regionality of design. I feel like, modernism and architecture kind of have lent itself to come into sort of the modern Santa Fe style because of the angularity. And, there wasn't a lot of furniture originally in like Spanish colonial times. They would just have like a chest and maybe like, one chair in the whole house, but there's something about the landscape here that draws in people that, are looking for like a wide horizon, whether it be personally, spiritually, to like expand, their artistic vision, or, like cowboys here. I mean, if you sit down next to a belly up, next to, a salty old cowboy here, you might find that he was like the dean of classicism at Yale or something. You know what I mean? There's just this unexpected cast of people here that, that come here for like sort of an expansion of themselves, and you can feel that, and in design wise, in the 80s and 90s, kind of like when America, like the salsa craze, or, like America sort of got, the market craze of all that was kitsch about the Southwest, which I full circle love now, you know what I mean? But I feel like we have this comfort with it now with retrospect of sort of like been through this like absorption of our experience here and what all that means. But yeah, it's easy as designers here to sort of placate to an expectation of like what is Southwest, and we wanted, we were so inspired by sort of the history of design and designers and, thinking about the whole world of design and interiors, and wanted to like have a practice and a clientele that was outside of Santa Fe as well as here, because there's really only so much marketplace to be had. And like one of the things we learned, we love show houses, and we recommend to everybody to take every opportunity to do a show house, because it gives you a chance to be with other designers and see how everyone interprets what they do without a client, and get to know themselves. But we realized like how many great designers there were here for such a small town. And really wanted to one day have a practice that was outside of just Santa Fe. So I feel like there was some strategy there, whether we knew it or not,
Yeah.
developing our look.
Yeah, there was for sure.
Yeah. I feel like I just went on for a really long time there. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Your work is such a great combination of, I think, your Southern roots and that traditionalism that happens in interiors, definitely here in the Southeast, and that mix of the traditional that you're finding in the Southwest. And I think there's also just this like beautiful, looking at the pictures from the Applegate Estate piece that you did, that's on your website. There's also, and maybe this is just, me leaning into your name a little bit, a little French provincialism happening as well. I mean, that kind of like dustiness and worn, French feeling fabrics that are happening in there that still feel at home in, a worn, well-worn home like the Applegate Estate.
Yeah, I think there's a groundedness to Santa Fe, and I think that no matter where we're working in the country, that's kind of a through thread of our work. And I think, yeah, there's something. I think because we do use a lot of color and pattern, we have to be really thoughtful with how we layer things so it doesn't feel like Clown Town or, super chaotic, And so really making sure that the way that we layer those colors and that the scaling of pattern is appropriately placed and is really important, I think, especially in a house like the Applegate Estate where, the architecture is so soulful and storied that, you couldn't just come in and do, loud murals on the wall. And, like if you were going to do something like that, it would need to be more muted and a bit more grounded. And, so yeah, I think Santa Fe really just brings this groundedness to our work for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of place, which is fantastic. And I would never say Clown Town at all about your work. Your use of color is very sophisticated.
Thank you. There's been moments. Everybody's got a self-correction.
Sometimes it's hard to hold yourself back. Color's just so fun. Well, yeah, it's so funny. Like if someone had said to me, Southwest mixed with English cottage, I would be like, there's no world in which those two go together. But then I saw your work and they complement each other so well. And I know that's really because of your skill in blending them. But maybe start with like what about each of those things? Because I think color obviously is a big tool for you because those sepia tones of Santa Fe, really thread through your work.
Well, I have to say, it took us a long time to get clients to listen to us. And the moment for us was this, it was a project that was in House Beautiful. I forget what it was called. Anyway, I can't remember. And it made it in, and the client was so happy. And Cindy was her name. She was amazing. And you know what? Really, how I ended up communicating that to people is that the desert is a really harsh place. At least here in Santa Fe, it's a really harsh place. And I think you want your house to feel cozy and comfortable and a bit of a respite from the wind and the dust. And, it's so expansive and it can feel a little overwhelming and it's beautiful, but you don't want that necessarily in your home. At least I don't. And so it took a while. I would lay out all of these florals for clients and we'd present it to them and there'd be some geometrics that were in there. And every client for years would say, I want more geometric. I don't want floral. I'm like, ugh. Okay. And it's really those florals that soften everything. And that was kind of the pivot and the push of being able to show a client in show houses. And then with these houses that we've done, that it works. And it really is important to be able to layer like both the geometric and harsher patterns with florals and that softness.
Yeah. Or even wallpaper. I remember sort of before, because I would say like 2018 or so, I would say maybe pushed by some British designers is botanicals and florals and wallpaper was all of a sudden back,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that never stopped in the South, perhaps so much, but like it was almost like an apostate. I mean, I remember people being appalled by us using wallpaper and layering pattern. I feel that like we were working out because we loved all of that and we were figuring out how to make all that work, that by the time it started to hit and designers were sort of getting curious, because there was like the era of like Heidi, everything was like Heidi or Heidi or whatever, and gray and pale and tone on tone, light sort of tone on tone, and or glam, right? And we were so outside of that people thought we were crazy. You're never going to have clients, and I feel like, we also have tried to have like, I don't want to say like an old fashioned or traditional career arc, and when everyone was saying that, Instagram was going to kill print and all these things, and like, why do people need print magazines when there's this thing called Pinterest? We were like leaning as hard as we could, as like, how do we get in print? Like, if it is going to go away, how do we get in print before it's gone? And we didn't want to like hire, a publicist early on, or someone that was going to like, all right, you got to go to every event, you got to be in everyone's face, and just sort of like push ourselves real hard out there. We were just sort of wanting to like build a clientele and build a business, and just like a good interiors business first. I mean, and then when HGTV had the big the Fixer Upper show, right? They were looking for like, we want the next husband and wife, like now, like, what we could do with you guys. You're just this like whatever you are, and we're gonna make you something else or whatever. And like, I'm so thankful that like none of that worked out, and it took us enough time to realize that we didn't want to go that route or whatever, that we wanted to keep developing what we were and figure out a way to make our vision, create a clientele. And print has really been, the recognition of national print has really brought clients to us that are coming to us to have, our interpretation and vision of what they want for their homes,
Yeah, I think we're kind of like traditionalists through and through, and with a bit of a twist. And I think when people were saying to us, you're crazy, don't do that, I think we were really confident in the fact that when you put something out into the world, you're going to get clients and people back that really relate to you. And I think that really has been our career arch for us, is that we have clients that come in and really trust us because they want what we want, and we really think similarly. There's like a calmness to our clients and a comfort that they usually come in with because they get it, And so I think when you're really kind of true to yourself and true to your aesthetic, that it makes those client relationships easier and allows you to, get in things like print and,
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, Matt, that the draw of Santa Fe is sort of like this expansion of your, creativity or your mind or your spirituality or whatever. And I wonder if that does make your clients more open to creative choices, right? Like maybe they have more of a acceptance of that because that's kind of what Santa Fe, what the draw of it is, maybe there's something there.
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, just moving out, somewhere where you're not from is an act of courage, and creativity is an act of courage. I feel like in a lot of ways you're tapping into whether it be like a consciousness field or something that is like transcendental and bigger than you, but it takes like courage to do that. And sometimes that means like leaving your hometown or your home region. And there is that feeling of adventure I feel like people come here with, and, the courage of creativity is like, it's an adventure. And I feel like a lot of our clients come in just excited to come in and see, like you see part of our library back out here. And, like being so far away from, big multi-line showrooms and all of that, for our clients to come in here and see, 10,000 fabrics and all these choices, and to know that like they're not going to have the like decision exhaustion of, figuring all the, that we take all of this and narrow it down to something that, resonates with them, I think is a relief, but it's still like they come in here with like a sense of adventure. I definitely think there is something to that for sure.
Yeah. I want to get back to color a little bit more because I do just love the colors you choose, and I imagine they do work so well with that desert sort of landscape. And is that something that has been with you from the beginning? Is that something that's sort of like evolved more? And also maybe you could speak a little bit to how you're building your color palettes, because they're very layered. You mentioned earlier kind of doing less color per room. Is that what you were saying? Like maybe one color, and now there's like...
Yeah. So for us, I always start with I call it a Keystone Fabric. So people start from all sorts of places, whether it's a painting or a rug or, whatever. I generally start with a fabric, and I'll find some fabric that I think that the client will really resonate with, and it has a lot of different color in it. I've got all these all these fabrics right next to me. I was going to pull one, and so that I think is really the jumping off point for me, creatively. But before that, we have really in-depth conversations with our clients. So we do a concept phase where it's a much more educated presentation than what you would get on Pinterest. So we're really showing our clients all of these different ways that we can go in, different options, and really hearing what they have to say. And so we get to know them really well in that process, and that's the time for us where they'll say things like, "Oh, I hate orange. That reminds me of whatever as a kid. I can't do that. No orange," or, whatever. And so by the time we're going into our design development phase, we're really kind of niched into what the client is wanting to see and how we're interpreting that for them. And so when we find that Keystone Fabric with all of the colors, that is really defining what those tones and how that house is going to read, if that makes sense. And then from there, we're layering in, I'll play with pattern from there. And so we'll have like a large scale, small scale, medium scale, something like that to make sure that it reads really well. And yeah, that's kind of how I do it.
Talking about fabrics, this kind of, I feel like is a point to make, is that we really love the industry of design, and all of us do, right? And to your average person would have no idea how many unbelievable fabrics there are in the whole industry at large. And so many of them are a piece of art, an incredible piece of art in themselves. And so to use the library, I love her technique of doing that, to flush a color palette out of is amazing. And that's something, we're looking at design schools for our daughter right now. And I'm sort of meeting more young people that are studying design, or young designers that are, wondering how, okay, I got this education and how do I get started? And it made me really realize, like, part of our history and how we got to where we are was like just a love of the industry itself. And so wanting to know everything we can find out about all the heroes of design, that if you ask a lot of these kids coming out of school and, and in our hiring process, have really found like, who are your inspirations of designers? And they can't think of anybody. They might say Kelly Wearstler or something. And I would say that, like, not to take anything away from like going to school, one of the great things about this industry is that it's all there. It's in the books, it's in the magazines, and you can, like, just through the materials of this business, get such an education in how people put it all together. And, without really going through sort of the history of design and figuring out, like, who are all these greats and how did they do it, then you really would be figuring it out on your own. You know what I mean? And I think that that's like what stops a lot of people from being successful in this business, is that they're starting from scratch instead of like, flipping through like a Mario Boada or David Higg or like any of these people that have like just stacks of books and like really finding out what it is they love about it and why it works and why it doesn't work is like the start. You know what I mean? It should be like the start of interior design schools, but it's really not. It's really not. Having like a library where they go through all the great stacks of all the greatest designs in history. They don't get that in school. You know what I mean? I think that's why a lot of people can be successful in this business without an education, is because you develop your eye, and then all the rest of it is just being a good business person. And
Yeah.
just thinking about the fabrics and seeing our stack of fabrics here. I mean, it's just, fabrics are the great not last, but example of like a to the trade, beautiful example of what this industry has produced.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting, so many fabrics now, I think, especially with digital printing, they can do smaller batches, and so it sort of spawned this world where you could create a fabric line on your own, and so that creates all of these new artists, right? Because they can, it's a little bit easier to create the fabrics, and then they can find people like you who are looking for really like small batch artisan made type of things. So I think that's been really so interesting.
Now, and there's all sorts of options, which is great. We do a lot of custom colorways for sure.
Yeah.
I also love the idea of like an art school just having a class that's just interior design books 101.
Right.
Yeah.
Throw some cushions on the
I'll take
floor
that
and
class.
just dig
Can I
in.
audit?
I'm signing up for that right now.
What are some of your favorite design books? Just if you had to pick like 3, each of you, that you'd put on that curriculum.
Yeah. Well, I love Sister Parish. Sister Parish in general is kind of like one of my faves. And then Catherine Island is a huge current inspiration. I love the way she layers things and uses color. I think she's insanely talented. I love Mario Boada.
Gosh,
Yeah.
there are so many greats. I feel like on that list should be some sort of like maybe like Hawk Boheme was a great
It's
one,
a great one
of bringing together like pattern and all the Bunny Williams books. Bunny Mellon, the bunnies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm forgetting his name. Another one I was really inspired by. Furlough Gatewood.
Oh yeah.
That was an incredible book. And then I love Anna Spiro. Her books are great. And then, and now we have friends all writing them, which is seeing their perspectives is so fun. Stephanie Sabe's new book.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
I was
fun.
just flipping the Wong's landscape book this morning. I don't know if you guys seen that. It's so good.
It's so funny how, you're right. Like the print industry, especially shelter magazines, has struggled, in the last 10 years, and changed a lot. But design books, it seems to me like have never been more, prolific. Like,
yes.
And exciting.
It's fabulous because, so many people get to create this sort of cohesive unit of their work, but I don't know. I guess I don't really have a frame of reference of like how many design books used to come out, but it just seems like a lot. But
no,
does,
I think it's an interesting point, and I was thinking about it at the other day because I'm starting to write one myself right now, and you know, I think that, you know, like the start of Instagram and social media kind of gave rise to a bunch of us designers kind of all at the same time. And now we're all at a certain point where we're, you know, starting to think in that direction more. And I think that's a big part of it. You know, like we had this, a lot of us had this opportunity that we grabbed and were able to come up at the same time. And I think that's a big part of why we're seeing so many books.
Yeah. And then also there's so many great design events, you know, now, like there's a design week everywhere. Great. And like I went to Birmingham, Antiques in the Gardens, you know?
Yeah.
And the people that are on these panels are like all kind of a lot of them are on book tours, but there's just so much opportunity too to just go and listen to these great panels of people that are signing books afterwards. And have y'all ever been to the Birmingham show there?
I've never been to Antiques in the Gardens, but I've always wanted to go.
Yeah, it was fun.
Birmingham has an incredible design community.
It does.
You know, it's another one of those sort of not small towns, but like relative to the design, like to that really incredible design community. It's like, interesting. You know, maybe like Santa Fe or
right. Yeah, no, there's greats there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the surrounding area and the garden, you know, there's such a rich history there of like architecture and gardens and everything. And I guess like being, you know, sort of a parochial Alabama boy and a Auburn person, that I looked at Birmingham as this like, you know, up on the hill sort of superior place that, you know,
same.
I don't know. But yeah.
Well, I loved seeing your portfolio, because I think one of our very first design dilemmas, we don't have a design dilemma today because we're low, which listeners, please send your questions in. But one of our very first ones, I want to say, was from, I don't know if it was Santa Fe, it could have been Arizona, but it was someone who wrote in and said that they had sort of this new build, but like Southwest home, but like loved English cottage interiors. And so she couldn't figure out how to blend them. And I can't even remember what advice we gave, but I was like, this is the designer whose book she needs. This is the work that she needed to see to be able to like figure out, you know, how that could even possibly come to fruition. But anyway, so it was just funny because I was like, I vividly remember that design dilemma, because we're like, that's a challenge. That's a hard one.
It's a hard crossover. And I think especially when you haven't seen it done before, you know, you know, you guys have been going for a long time, and you know, it's challenging to think about something in a new way. And I think that was the big push for us, was to really think about something in a new way.
I love what you said about the landscape being so harsh, and so your interior needs to maybe be like a little bit of a respite from that. I always think about that in terms of the beach, where you know when you've been out on the beach and it's like it's hot and it's bright, and you're just like, I want to go to like a dark room and like kind of and how like wonderfully peaceful that is. So it kind of has that, but your rooms aren't dark though. So I'm curious, like they do feel, I guess, layered and cozy.
Some of them, we like in our house we have a small. Matt really likes small spaces. I kind of tend to like bigger spaces. I like it.
I grew up living on a boat with my mom for a couple of years, and then we, you know, lived in like cottages, you know, like you know, a proper like 1,100 square foot cottage, and like I do find a comfort in like a smaller space.
And so we kind of differ in that way a bit, and so we were really conscious when we did our house now, our current house, that we had rooms that felt really cozy, like you're saying. And like we have one, we call it the blue room. It's just like a really dark blue room with wood paneling and wallpaper on the ceilings. He's right, it's the room that we all hang out in at the time. We're always there.
Yeah, it's funny when I think about that room. This is completely irrelevant and a departure from the conversation. Sorry, but
Let's do it.
we had painted, so it has this like yellow, has this like paneling. We had this other room that was yellow, and we accidentally painted too much yellow, but I had to install it and get it on the wall still. It was like this blue and yellow. It was like exactly like the taking care of business room in Graceland. I don't know. Yellow and blue room. Like,
people walked in and were like, what?
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, we just had to pre-spray this and it's going to change.
And like it took me a while to get to it. And like she kept trying to up that to like the top of my list, and I was like, no, come on, Elvis,
Let's talk about your house, because your house is fabulous. I like just every single space is so just delightful and layered and interesting. And I did see a little ballard out there on your porch.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
It definitely is a designer lab. I feel like.
Yeah, it is. It is for sure. Yeah, it's the first house that we've ever, one, been able to afford what we do, because it's expensive, and two, we're able to be that creative. So it's kind of like our little wonderland. It's great, and we have a 16-year-old daughter that we can be as playful and fun as we want right now. It's great.
Yeah. So what was sort of some of your initial jumping off points in the house, things that you knew early on that you were going to incorporate and then built around?
It's probably not the most exciting answer, but I think it was really comfort. We wanted really comfortable furniture, and I think like our floor planning was really important to us and how we were going to use the house. And so we were moving in from the country. So we were like 45 minutes south of town for almost 20 years. And moving in, and we knew that our life was going to really kind of switch to much more, entertaining. And we were going into a different phase in our life with our daughter in high school and whatnot. And so I think that really was the jumping off point for us, is what, like how we were going to live in the house and what we wanted to portray. And then I think from there, we're exposed to so much as designers. Like Matt was saying earlier, there's millions and millions of fabrics, and we see a lot of them, and I think we were able to go through and just kind of choose what we wanted and what we liked at the time and what felt fun and vibrant, and knowing we can change it when we want to. And it, it wasn't as, like those things are a little bit easier for us to do than it is for a client. So it didn't feel like this huge decision that we were having to make. It just felt like where we were at the time, which I think is what pulled the house together enough. Funny enough.
I feel like so many designers say, like, I love your perspective of we could change it at any point because you're in that business. But I think we often hear that because there are so many choices, it's paralyzing because then you have to pick, and it's, more challenging for your own space because you can go anywhere.
It is harder to design for yourself.
I think it is harder to design for yourself. And I did have to step back and kind of, and also we were on a timeline. So Matt remodeled this house in 4 months, 5 months. I mean,
the first part, house. Yeah, the first part was about 5. And then we did another one. And, we knew that we had an opportunity for that article to happen that was in House Beautiful. And we booked, for the last part, Robert Rufino like 6 months ahead of time to set that deadline.
Yeah, we're like this. Like we were photographing. Robert's flying, and he's an incredible stylist, and came in and styled for that shoot, and we had to hit it
when we had it. Yeah, so like when we broke ground in July, and knowing we had a shoot September 20th, it was like, I go in.
Decisions.
Yeah.
That's scary.
I go into full. Yeah, my friends
we were
worried.
Putting doors up as they were walking in the house.
Our friends get worried about me because like, we will, if it takes it, we'll do like, 18-hour days, my knuckles will be dragging the floor at the end, and then just like, whatever it takes. Especially, I mean, we booked a great photographer, Jenna and Robert, so far in advance that it was the like hardest deadline we've probably had.
Yeah.
Whereas like,
intense.
of course, like everything matters for, clients, and you have time set and everything. But like, yeah, that was quite a push for sure.
But I think, yeah, we were, there was a timeline, we had to meet it. There, there were all sorts of different factors. And yeah.
I mean, we were styling, there was like wet paint.
Yeah. I guess if you have a deadline, then maybe you're forced to make those decisions. So you didn't have time for paralysis, I suppose.
Yeah. I was like, this is great.
It works. How you mentioned your daughter is interested in, you mentioned she's interested in design a little bit. Well, how does she, what kind of input does she give you on the house and choices?
She's pretty involved, which is great.
Yeah. She has opinions.
Yeah, she has opinions. She loves it. She's really passionate about it, which is fun and exciting to see. And, and that, now I think sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe my style's getting a little dated. She's like, well, haven't you seen this designer or that designer, whatever. I'm like, no, I haven't actually. And yeah, I mean, she's got a great eye. And I think, like her room, she came to us and said she wanted it to feel like a sunset or a sunrise. And she really wanted that, like, her room is in this really beautiful peach. I forget the actual color of it, but it's really pretty. And then we had somebody come in and do these hand-painted murals at the top of her wall, like a border. And she wanted florals, and she wanted it to feel really, cozy and comfortable. And so she put together her own like schematic design. And then I helped her pull together the rest of it. And then she pulled fabrics that she wanted for like this one special chair that she has. And, so it was like a really nice collaborative thing that we did together. But she had final approval of everything
in her room. Yeah.
It's such a pretty room, and it does look like a sunset. Yellows and peaches.
Yeah, those yellow curtains paired with the peach walls is just really fantastic.
There is something about yellow curtains, a bright yellow curtain. I don't know what it is, but like they're just magical.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. I love how that turned out.
Well, you mentioned loving fabrics and having those as sort of the keystone of your design. So I'm curious what sort of fabrics you're finding yourself drawn to now. Anything that like where you see things moving.
Yeah, I love Michael Smith's fabrics, and I tend to really like designers' fabrics quite a bit, or like collections that are being done with Pierre Frey or Schumacher or like something like that. And I think the reason being is that designers I'm always on the lookout for a really unique color perspective and how that's combined and what and how those tones are maybe not quite as easily found, And so that for me is what I'm really attracted to. I think Michael Smith does a really good job of that. Yeah, there's so many.
I was going to say, like,
there's so many.
There's so many.
Yeah, I mean, I literally have thousands next to me right now, actually, because I'm getting this fabric wall redone. But
yeah, and I feel like one of the great things about like florals and botanicals, in general, of course, like no shade on stripes and all the other patterns, but like I feel that when you're inspired by nature and like how to interpret it different, there's always, there's just so much innovation that could be made. I mean, kind of there's nothing new under the sun. Like looking back, like there was a antiques dealer that had all of these like Parisian samples from, a span of like 50 years, this collection. And it was incredible to see like how much there's been that's never been seen even, or like to rediscover. And I mean, there's new companies popping up like to your comment earlier all the time, where, between furnishings and papers and patterns and everything, for us, like, we have to travel and go see it all just to try to keep up with what's all new, and like, walk 200 million square feet of High Point or wherever, to see it all. I mean, it's really exciting. I feel like maybe even during like sort of the housing boom of the last few years has just really like expanded what's out there by so much.
Well, your point about botanicals, like, there is such a wide range of botanicals. There can be really delicate and lacy florals, really feminine stuff, but then there's also like really almost masculine, like edgier, where they're like more black block print or darker colors, or sort of like,
a woodland.
Yeah, like they can kind of just, florals can go in a much more, they're not always like chintz.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. We have this fishing cabin that we're doing right now for a client from Texas. And, the husband was like, I'm not, crazy about florals. I don't know how I feel about it. And I was like, don't worry, we'll go more woodland.
Mhm. That comes from, like, I always say, like, I love camo and like mossy oak and all that real tree, and like I'm serious, but joking, but like it really, it's a wildland textile print. I mean, if you like out all the culture, everything cultural about camo, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I love all the different types of camo. More camo, is better.
That's not necessarily the kind of woodland I'm talking
Sure, I know, but like,
That
You're
is
not
a
gonna
project
develop
I want
a
to see in
floral
house
camo?
Yeah.
yeah, some mossy oak recliners,
Right.
Actually, now that I'm looking at your house again, I see like a good bit of ballard. Like, is that a rug? One of our rugs and a mirror and stuff? Nice.
Yeah, we love ballard.
Well, we love you too. It was just so fun to see your portfolio. I encourage everyone to go follow y'all and take a look at your site. And I guess we're going to be looking for your book in, I don't know, 16 months, 2027. Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well, you give us a call back. We'll have you back on the show to talk about it. Congrats, by the way. I don't even want to know how like scary that process is from the beginning, Like, how do you get your head around writing a book?
I know, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Well, can you tell everyone where they can find you, follow you, and see your work?
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is www.frenchandfrenchinteriors.com. And our Instagram handle is at frenchandfrenchinteriors.com. Nope, just kidding. At French and French Interiors. I think it's the same I'm pretty sure it's the same on Facebook too. Yeah. And what is it on TikTok? I don't even remember.
It's probably the same.
I think it's probably the same.
And you said y'all just had a project in Architectural Digest, so people can, what are we in, October issue?
No, it was online. It was just online.
Oh, online. Okay. So people can go check that out. We can link to it in the show notes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. That was such a delight.
Thank you guys
you.
so much. You guys are amazing.
All right. That's our show. And that's our show. You can find all of the show notes on our blog, howtodecorate.com/podcast.
To send in a decorating dilemma, email your questions to podcast@ballarddesigns.net so we can help you with your space.
And of course, be sure to follow us on social media at Ballard Designs.
Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And please leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Until next time, happy
Happy decorating.